Hi, it's me again with Corel Draw Tips and Tricks, and this is the second installment on building a all-wood chain, a roller chain, and I'm going to start in just a second on how to build the sprocket. But this is how you would. I'm a big believer in I see people post stuff where their items aren't sanded. The burn residue is still on it. Uh, Kind of irritates me. So your links need to be sanded. That's really hard to sand, that little bitty piece of wood. That's probably 3/4 of an inch long. And not only does it look better, I think it'll actually operate better because the sanded wood would have a freer flow of motion, not bind up when you have that resin. That resin, the burn residue, brings out the moisture and it kind of burns it and turns it the brown. And it's a little tacky, so if your pieces were a little tacky, they're going to hang up. So what I suggest to do is to cut them all out. And I didn't do a very good job of lining these up. And you can get, as close as you want. Don't get really too close. But take some blue painter's tape and tape before you take them out of the laser. Put a piece there. Put a piece there. They don't have to 100% cover up everything. But take those tape before you take them out of the laser. One, it'll help you pick them all up and kind of press them, press the tape down firmly, turn it over. A few pieces might have fallen out, put them in place. Go get your random orbital sander. If you don't already have one, you need to get one and sand it. The tape will help hold it in place because, it's down in its own cavity. It's on the same plane as the wood. Tape that all, sand that all really good. Blow off the dust with your air compressor or just light. If you don't have compressed air, just a light rag. And then tape this side. Flip it over, untape it, the first side that you had taped, and sand that side. Then when the pieces come out, they're going to be sanded and ready to go. Now, if you're planning on building your own sprocket, it's difficult. Let's do this. Let's get this smaller and let's move it down here. We don't need the rest of that. On this particular chain, and this is where CorelDRAW can really help you, this is your parallel dimension tool. You just go from that edge to that edge, and on 0.67 between those two rollers, this is where your sprocket needs to fit into. And you can play around, so make it, if it's 0.67, I'd make it 0.64 maybe. I hadn't made my own sprocket in a long time. But you can see it fits down in there. Now, it doesn't have to go too far, but you could draw this the same way. And I'm not going to go into depth on this because I doubt if too many people are going to draw their own sprocket after I tell you something else to do. And then it would just, you need to, if I've actually got a video out there kind of how to build a sprocket. So search for that. But that's what you need to do. Now, with that said, for $26, and okay, it took me 2 days to draw the first sprocket to get it right. Not 2 days. I'm sorry. It took me 2 hours. It was like forever. And then what the bad thing about it, let's say I had 12 teeth on it, and it fit perfectly. It worked. I cut it out and it worked. I found this late one night on the internet, www.woodgears.ca, and Matthias sells this gear generator for $26. It's just a program. He emails it to you. And then that's all I'm going to say about the man. He's a wood genius. He is you know, I've heard a couple people say, well, it's just numbers. Well, he's the only one I've ever seen do it. So then all you have to tell the gear generator is the size of your roller, and it's actually going to ask for the space between the pins, which can be done real easy on your first drawing. There's your center. There's your center. So I'm almost 1 1/8 inches, you know, from center to center. That's all you have to tell the gear generator. How big this is and how wide that is. Then the next thing you tell it is how many teeth you want. And in 2 seconds, I drew the first gear. This is actually the gear I drew. It took me 2 hours. And it works. It's perfect. It doesn't have a problem. Actually, I guess I made 2 of them, because those aren't the ones I used. Here's the one I used his are rounded off. And what is so good about his, it took me 2 hours to draw that. I needed 12 teeth. If you want to reduce your gear down on the next sprocket to make that pulley or whatever turn faster, if you want them equal, then you're done. You've got 2 sprockets. But as you can see here, I've got a big one and a little one. That sprocket took me 2 hours. This sprocket would probably take me 2 hours. In his, under 2 minutes, you can draw that. And then in just under 30 seconds, you tell it you want to go from 12 teeth to 6 teeth or 8 teeth, whatever this is. And you're done. Your gears are cut. Or not cut, they're drawn out. It's incredible. It's a lot of fun to play with. So go to his website. There's actually a test version that you can play around with, I think, still. It has a wobble effect, so you wouldn't be able to print it out. But then all you do is export it. And you know, if you have problems with that, I haven't done it in a while. But you export it and bring it to Corel. Now, one word of little insight: when you're ready to export it, it's got all these graphics in this, in the center finder, and the you know, the pitch finder. Take all that away, take away the other gear, and just save the one gear at a time, because it won't come up right in Corel Draw when you do it. And then you know, so once you're in Corel Draw and you've got this gear, you can do anything you want to it after that. You know, like I drew, let's see here. Sorry about that. You know, I put little holes. You know, I could have put, you know, anything, make it look like a sprocket, kind of like this. Now, this is MDF. The other gears are plywood. There are 3 layers of plywood, 3 different gears glued together. There's no way to glue those 3 1/8-inch plywoods together. There's no way to do it, with the exception of, and I've mentioned this in a couple other videos, indexing dowels. Same thing, go back and get you a dowel, measure a hole, do a test. This has 2 indexing dowels. I put, you know, 8 holes to kind of make it look like a deal. But when you're gluing, like on this MDF, it only took 2 layers. When you make that dowel hole slightly, almost too snug, and you glue it down, glue all your pieces, put a little glue in that hole, and actually have to use a hammer to tap that into the hole, it puts it dead on. And with that said, draw it dead on, you know, using the center of the page. If you don't, your holes will be off. Especially when you're using 2 pieces, if you've got one upside down and the holes aren't equal, If you turn this one over and it's face up and the other one's face down, the holes are going to be a little bit off. That won't happen if you draw your holes correctly. And there's plenty of videos out there to show you how to do that. So do an indexing. You know, all you need to know is those two measurements and then how many layers of plywood or whatever you need to fill up your chain. And that depends on how many times you want to build this roller, how wide you want it. Now you can see in this one and this one, I sanded off the edges, the tips, so it'd give a little bit of give, and it wouldn't be a rigid, hard cut if it ever hit anything. This one, I don't think I did on. Yeah, I did a little bit. But I have a lathe, and I'm able to put them on there and spin it off and sand them off. Anyway, I hope that helped a little bit, and thank you for watching.